Yeah, so I'll drop them off. So,
And your microphones appear to be on, so I think we're good, Renee. Yeah.
okay. We good?
Yeah.
It looks like it.
Okay. Let's call this meeting to order and all rise to say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, welcome, everyone. I'll just state for the record that this is a continuation of the Town of Pompey's budget workshop. It's Thursday, October 6th. 6:02 p.m. We have some guests. I would just have you raise your hand when I say who you are. The village mayor of Manlius, Paul Worrell. The village clerk of Manlius, Lisa Baker, and in the center is the Manlius Fire Chief Jansen Casals. Did you get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the reason for the invite, which might be a little bit less needed now that we see the new numbers, was that we had a little bit of a sticker shock when we got the numbers last week for the Manlius Fire Department contract. So Paul graciously offered to come and explain what goes on at the fire department there and the budget and sorry about that. And so I'm gonna turn the phone off and turn the meeting over to you, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Just so we can get some sort of an explanation. I think when we first looked at this, the difference between last year's budget amount for the town of Pompey and this year's was so great. It was over 21%, I think. And so that was a little bit concerning to us. So it's helpful for us to know how this works.
Yeah, right now, as you can see, the paper, you should have a copy of the fire budget, the EMS budget. Fire budget is all A3410s and the EMS ambulance is all 4540. And you'll see the revenues on the next page, and then bottom of the second page of the EMS, you'll also see the employee benefits. So it's part of the budget, but it's separated in the budget to coincide with all the employee benefits for all our employees. But so that's kind of what you have. The original adopted budget came in at a tax rate of 1.86. I think the one that you received was one that I sent you. That was, but I told you that Martha was putting together that showed if we had to increase down the road, if we had to increase more personnel. We did increase 2 personnel back a couple of months ago, only because our numbers are skyrocketing. And in order for us to cover, well, let me give you a history. First of all, we are running wild right now.
You're running what? I'm sorry, wild.
Wild right now with EMS call. We're running pretty heavily with fire too, but with EMS calls. And it's not that we're running just a lot of EMS calls. We're running EMS calls in territories that we've never run. At least not as often as we are. If you look at the numbers, you'll see that in just the first page of the sheet that's got the village mayor's title at the top. You'll see areas that we've been dispatched to. You'll notice that.
Where's that one?
This page. First page is got my name at the top.
Yep.
And if you look down, Eves, Lafayette, Quebec, we've run already. Just in the city of Syracuse, in fact, we just ran one just before we came here to the city of Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken. We've run the city of Syracuse 60 times. We've run to town of Sullivan 80 times. Those, and then we've run to, I mean, you look at Tully, that's a haul for us, 11 times to Tully, 13 to Lafayette. The KVAC 17, Manoa 13, these are all. And, and I can tell you that, I believe, from what I understand, Eves is on the brink of bankruptcy. So we're not sure how long, Eves is gonna even be in existence. So, we're running, I think right now, the prediction is we're gonna run probably over 600 calls more than we did last year. Yeah, that's not.
So why is that, Paul? Because we talked about this on the phone, and I know you talked about mutual aid and nearest available
Yeah, well,
or Jansen, whoever.
Hanson, I'll let him explain it because, I mean, he can give you a better rundown of what's going on right now. And just so you know, I sit on a committee with Nikon, a committee that's, well, I chair the committee, and we're looking into ways to solve what's going on right now, because it's not just happening here, it's happening across the country. So, and Jansen came with me back in May to one of the conferences and spoke on what we're trying to do here to correct some of that. He can get into that if he wants to, but the biggest thing is it's happening all over. Those of you that don't run EMS service, don't run ambulances, we find out that this has become kind of something that's really hitting us in several different ways. Now, I did sit down with the fire chiefs, the three mayors in 3 villages in our town, Mayor Brazil, Manoa, myself, and the Mayor of Fayetteville, sat down with fire chiefs and said, because they wanted a standard, bare minimum, what we wanted for manpower to cover what the calls are that were going on. And we told them, each of us told them that we want a standard of 7 people on duty at all times. We want to be able to man 2 ambulances in each village, and we want to be able to man a fire truck. Because the bottom line that I told Jansen was that I do not want a phone call from somebody saying we live across the street from firehouse, or we live not even a half mile down the road, and the ambulance that showed up was from someplace we've never heard of. So we want to make sure that we cover our territories and still have a fire crew. Right now, until we made this mandate, right now, we could be out on 2 ambulance calls, Fayetteville could be out on 2 ambulance calls, not even in our own district. And we get a fire call and we're in trouble. So especially during the day, at night could be different because we have volunteers, but during the day we're in trouble. So, and we've had to modify that since then, and he can get into that of making 911 center know that we're only going to go to certain areas without first notification to the chief of where you want us to go. We're not going to go to the city anymore until you notify us and tell us what the reason is we're going to the city.
Is it the 911 that does this? Who
They're the district.
tells you that you need to go?
They do.
They do.
They do. Well, they do.
But in essence, do we end up subsidizing that if our numbers don't go up? But you're having to more fully staff in order to accommodate increasing numbers elsewhere. Do we end up subsidizing that?
Yeah, so like many of these service-based problems, there's not a singular source of complication. So it's not as though if we said, and the mayor's correct, we're pursuing some avenues to maybe throttle or restrict how much our resources are being utilized in other areas. That's one little component. Another major factor that's occurring industry-wide is ambulance offload times at hospitals. So That's hit even the local headlines and local media here. That once you transport the patient to the hospital, you end up in the emergency department, and at times there for extended periods of time before you can offload the patient. We have taken action to try to address some of that.
So are you just sitting there waiting with the patient?
At times, yes, and not just us, all EMS agencies, and that's actually a nationwide issue,
Yeah.
not isolated just out of Doggett County.
Is that a number of beds capacity issue?
It's staffing, and it's staffing, it's number of beds, it's staffing, it's specialty services like lab values, and x-rays and all those services. So again, their challenges, like ours, are not just a singular issue that can be rectified.
So when you go to an accident and it's not a level 1 trauma, how do you decide which hospital you're gonna go to?
So it depends on the period of time you're asking about. Right now, today, we're kind of back to a little bit patient driven as well as the clinical assessment to determine if it's not a level 1 trauma, is there enough trauma to necessitate a specialty care center? And after that, it may be a little bit of patient discretion as to what they would prefer. For a significant period of time, we were being directed by Upstate Hospital, which hospital to transport to 100% of the time. So if we came and picked you up in the ambulance and you said, oh, my doctor's at St. Joe's, Upstate may tell us, no, you're going to Crouse, and that is the only hospital we would take you to.
Why would they dictate where you have to go?
Because the hospital load was so high, the demand on the hospital system was so strained that they were doing they were operating underneath what was known as forced rotation. In other words, they were trying to equally distribute the patient load to minimize the impact on hospital because they were all at brink of failure.
Okay.
So these are a mere glimpse of some of the challenges that are facing EMS.
Mhm.
In addition to that, the healthcare system in general, as we all know, especially through the pandemic, suffered significantly. And while we were already facing pre-pandemic levels of people having no primary care physician, utilizing the ERs as their primary care, utilizing EMS for transport because they had no other options, COVID expanded that exponentially. So what may have been a office visit, a doctor's office visit 5 years ago is now a 911 call, an ambulance transport, and an ER visit. And while we can all have our personal opinions about the nuances of that and how we feel that should go differently, it doesn't change the reality that that is what's occurring. We don't necessarily have any authority to arbitrarily say you're not going to the hospital.
Right.
So all of these factors have played a role. And so to answer the one question about the mutual aid stuff, to be blunt, yeah, to a certain degree, whether it's us or somebody else, if that resource that the patient is receiving is being subsidized by somebody other than themselves, yeah, you're subsidizing that response.
Well, I mean, more, are we like, do you have the same relationship with Eves, Lafayette, KVAC, with these entities that you do with Pompey? In terms of,
Service?
what do you want to call it?
Mutual aid, you mean,
Is that-
coming?
You mean,
Contract.
Yeah, let me be clear, when we're referring to mutual aid, we are not referring to the area we serve in Pompey. That is our primary response territory.
Right.
These other agencies, we have no contractual agreement with.
And so when you go on these calls for these other towns, there's no direct payment back from them for the service you provide, or
Not through-
again, this is a
Yeah,
mutual.
not through a tax subsidy. We do bill all patients that we transport for the EMS service, regardless of where they're from. So that's universal, but there is no tax subsidy. The theory of the mutual aid is that it's some level mutual.
You'll get it back some other time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But as you can see, based on some of those numbers,
I was gonna say, what's your sense in terms of your participation relative to the other?
our biggest challenge or the biggest discrepancy is to the areas that are predominantly served by AMR ambulance. So, and as you can see, the big numbers on here are Syracuse and Sullivan are served by AMR. And I'm certainly not trying to take a slight at anybody's municipality. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. So that's some of the areas that we're trying to address on some of the mutual aid stuff. But even as I said to the mayor, and the village board through our discussions, even if you were to remove that component and just say somebody waved the magic wand and we didn't have to provide any more mutual aid and everything was beautiful, everybody was covering their own calls, it still wouldn't address the more global issue of like some of the industries we're facing manpower shortages, both career and volunteer.
I understand, yeah.
We operate 2 ambulances. It's fairly regular. Again, take the mutual aid out of the picture. It's fairly regular. Both of our ambulances are tied up in our primary territory, which does include Pompey. Somewhere in that Pompey, the area of Manlius that we serve, we have 2 ambulances tied up. especially during the daytime, that can be, at one point, that was all of our staffing. So if somebody were to call and report a fire, there was nobody in the building to go serve that fire incident. So the mutual aid is a factor. It's important. It's something we're trying to address, but it is not the global discussion. If that makes sense at all.
Except, and I am discussing the situation with the mayor of Chittenango. She's aware of it. We've had discussion and I told
That's a
her
big number.
we can't keep doing this without. And they're in turn having a discussion with AMR, trying to get a second rig in that area, but that's probably not gonna happen. They're having trouble staffing one rig in that area. So it'll come down with, because this number is probably double, because federal probably runs the same cost. So we're gonna have to sit down with them and say, look, because billing is help, but billing doesn't always cover everything.
Who do you bill? If you go on a mutual aid call, who can you, the patient?
The patient and their insurance, right?
Okay,
So
so then
one,
that doesn't, I'm sorry, just let me finish this. That doesn't always cover, I take it, because your expenses are one thing and then what insurance covers is something else.
Medicare doesn't even come close to covering what it costs us to run an ambulance call,
yeah,
especially if it's somebody that's got to be given a lot of medication and, you know, care on the way in. Medicare only gives you a certain amount, and that's all they give you.
right. It sounds like it sounds like you're dealing with a super complex situation between the healthcare, the fire, the hospitals, the number of beds, the capacity issues, staffing issues. So I'm not here to give you a hard time about any of that. What I would like to understand is when you adopt the budget or you come up with the budget, who from Pompey was involved or got to participate in the development and understanding of this? Because I'm new to I only got on in June, so I very well may have missed the invite. Yeah, sure.
Last couple of years, nobody, and I can tell you the reason why.
Okay.
We would call up here all the time, and I would talk to Carol Marsh and tell her when we've got it.
Yep.
We're having our meetings, and she'd say, don't worry about it, we're okay with it, you do whatever you gotta do, and that was the end of it. And I don't know if you do that, Ann, but she never would come, and she was always invited, so we gave up.
Sure.
Because I told you on the phone, I've never gotten an invite at
Right.
least 2020 office.
Yep.
And I think you must have stopped
We
offering the invite prior to our administration starting, and then we've never gotten an invite. I can tell you with certainty that Tom knows me, I'm an eagle eye on the budget. I would have been interested.
We'll start inviting you, but I can tell you the reason we stopped was because she never, not once,
Yeah.
came and always told us, I'm okay with what you guys are doing. I'm fine with it.
Well, and just so you know, the reason you're here, because I know this is not precedent. We don't typically have the fire department show up to justify or anything, and that's not really what we're asking. We're here to get information. Is because of the jump. That 21% was just seemed so exorbitant to us, to me, when I first saw it, and then when we met last week to the rest of the board. That if you were in our shoes, I think you would want an explanation too.
Oh, no, and I don't.
So I don't want you to think we're here. We're really looking for information.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We got nothing to hide.
You've been great about offering to
Yeah,
come.
we know what we have to do to provide the service. We know what it costs us, and believe me, we know it's not an easy thing for anybody, but for us, I believe we provide one of the best services around, and we're always there, and we don't want to leave somebody wondering why we can't give them when they call, we're gonna be there, so.
So just so I'm really clear, if you have an ambulance available, even if it's the only one left in the bay, you have to send it out on a mutual aid call. You can't say, no, sorry, we need to keep ours here.
Short answer to your question is no. No regulatory requirement for you to respond to ambulance. I think that we could all understand the ethical human side,
Yeah.
some of the decisions that come along with that, recognizing that whoever's calling that likely doesn't have a horse in the race of all the political discussions that have resulted in our ambulance being requested to their aid. That's not to say that we don't have a sense of responsibility to those that do subsidize us, because we certainly do. And we are always on the path of trying to address how to, like I said, kind of throttle some of that mutual aid response so that we're ensuring that our local folks, and again, that includes the Pompey area that we protect, are being served not just appropriately, but even more specifically by
Well,
us.
And I can tell you with certainty, I have never had a complaint, at least addressed to me, about the service. I have about the cost, but not about the service. So I just like, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I would
He's in-
agree.
he lives in
I
the
live
fire
in the preserve, so I'm probably the closest to your fire department, EMS dispatch, new firehouse, looks great. I'll take it a step farther, what you guys do for the kids at this Fayetteville Manlius School District with respect to the drug awareness for the parents and I can't speak to the fire protection, I'm sure you do a great job, but the urgency around drinking and driving and all the things you do really hits home with the kids and the parents. So I appreciate all that. And as everybody said, the concern that we had was, we're coming into the budget, it's super tight, inflation's 8.9%, and we're dealing with 22% increase
Which really put us.
that
way
nobody
over the
knew
tax.
was coming.
Sure.
So
So,
then everybody comes back to us and says, why are you screwing us? You're raising the taxes and, frankly, outside of the taking care of the roads, and this is the next biggest thing is fire and EMS.
so did the mutual aid calls, I haven't done the math here. What percentage are those of the overall calls? I really appreciate too that you did this, that you gave us the numbers, because it really helps. But I mean, I'm looking at EMS only, so 118. I mean, it just looks like that's significant percentage of your, of the calls you go on.
It's less than 10.
Oh, it is less than 10?
Yeah.
I'm not doing the math very well.
And understand,
Mutual aid is less than 10% of your rough house.
yeah, I would say just rough numbers.
Okay,
What are you at? 140, 170? It's maybe pushing 10%.
okay.
EMS calls for 2019 and 2020.
We're a couple hundred calls ahead of that for this year. The service is moving frequently. And as the captain says underneath it,
Yeah.
these numbers are raw dispatch numbers. So it's an indicator of the request. It doesn't necessarily result in a transport or even an arrival on the incident scene.
And I just want to again be clear, especially if anybody's listening and is hearing about how this works for the first time. The reason you have to go on mutual aid calls is because there are other areas that do not have an ambulance service.
Oh, there's a lot of areas.
Or that ambulance service it's beyond its capabilities, it's not available.
Or they need a second ambulance or whatever. Okay, so, but there are lots of places, I mean, Pompey Hill doesn't have an ambulance.
Correct.
Well, I'm not even sure at this point how much Lafayette's even in service anymore. So, and there was a time. We in the three villages in the town of Manlius. Are fortunate, we all still have our ambulance service, but there was a time Kirkville, North Chittenango, Bridgeport. All had ambulances, not one of them has an ambulance anymore. So,
What's the reason for that? Paul?
because it's too hard to man. It was too hard for those small communities to man. Ambulance. Kirkville has troubles getting out on anything, so it's tough. And the volume of calls, I mean, they keep a certain level of personnel, but with Chittenango stuff, it's hit or miss of who's gonna show up. I mean, not trying to bash other fire
Yeah,
departments.
no.
We get through a lot of calls before a lot of these other fire departments where the call is, we get there ahead of them.
Is it fair to say, and I'm looking for feedback from the three of you, is it fair to say that Pompey, the villages in Manlius are essentially funding for all intents and purposes, ambulance and fire service for a lot more people than are what's paying for?
Well, they got the town of Manlius in there too.
Hmm?
You got the town of Manlius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
town, yeah.
So town village and of Manlius and Pompey we not only cover what's part of what you're asking,
Yeah.
right? The calls here, but we supplement the others because you don't get all the,
Right, so our resources are certainly going to other areas.
Yeah.
Again, in theory, we are then in
yes.
turn receiving those services back. Into a sliding scale, we are. So if we look at it through the glasses of the fire service, we are receiving assistance from the Casanova Fire Department, the East Syracuse Fire Department, you know, the DeWitt and Fayetteville areas and all those things. But we are fortunate that our resources are more reliable. And then by comparison, at times, the services that we're getting in return are not.
Right,
So, I'm not, certainly not trying to be disparaging towards any other agencies,
right.
but
So in essence, can some of these smaller towns actually get rid of their ambulance service and go right to mutual aid?
What do you mean?
Without, I mean,
What's-
because you said some used to have an ambulance, they don't anymore.
so a couple.
So they
couple
just get rid of
answers to
that expense and then they fall into
Right.
mutual aid.
There's no,
If you're a shrewd mayor, right, pick any town, it doesn't really matter. Where I'm going is right where you're at. If I'm shrewd, I'm like, you know what, never mind. I'm not gonna fund the fire police, the fire or the,
Because they have to come anyway.
or, yeah,
no, GML, you
Yeah.
have to provide fire service.
right,
So every municipality in New York is required to provide fire service. EMS is not an essential service and therefore there is no requirement to
Yeah.
provide it. However, on the mutual aid side of things, there is no regulatory requirement for anybody to respond to your area at that point,
right.
or even at any point.
But there is now because we pay for it.
There is now because you pay, well, but.
Oh, so you're saying even though we pay, there's, you still don't have to come.
Oh, no, that's not mutual aid. That's not. mutual aid.
The thing is, mine, as the mayor, I'll tell you my position. Is that we're going to the areas we go to that they contract. Right now, we're going to some of these other areas. Hopefully it'll correct itself.
Yeah,
If it doesn't, we're gonna have to make changes.
Right.
To them. But if somebody says to me, that we contract with, says, we're not going to contract with you anymore, we're gonna keep that money and you still have to come.
Oh, no,
It's not
yeah,
gonna happen
no.
because I'm not gonna send my paid staff out to somebody else's call and leave us without anybody when our taxpayers are paying the whole bill.
right,
But I think,
So it would come down to when our guys are on duty, they don't leave our fire district. They don't leave they don't leave the village of Manlius, or the town of Manlius is still contracting with us. They don't leave the town of Manlius. Other than that, we go nowhere. And that's a harsh thing to do. That's a harsh thing to put on firefighters.
Yeah.
And EMS people, because that's not what they're doing the job for. But we couldn't afford, just like you're concerned about the cost, we couldn't afford to operate if we did that. If we just went to everybody else's territory, never got a dime for it.
Mhm.
That's all on our taxpayers.
Right.
It's not fair to them.
I agree, which is why I asked the question.
Yeah. You know, I mean, like I said, we've got the lawyers at NICOM working with us on this to try to get this, because it is it's really all over the States. I'm the international chief, and I talked to chiefs from other states, and they're having the same issue. Some of them are worse. Some of them, they're putting patients in fire trucks because the ambulances aren't showing up for the calls. They're putting patients in fire trucks, taking them to the hospital, then their fire truck gets tied up at the hospital with the personnel. And what happens if they get a fire call? So,
It's really easy, I think, as a taxpayer to be concerned, or the board of any city or town or municipality, to be concerned about the cost until you're the one waiting for an ambulance to show up or your house is burning down. You know,
Oh, yeah.
like, where are these guys?
Yeah.
You know,
So one of the watershed moments for us, which really spawned into some of the discussions from the chief's office to the mayor's offices about what is your threshold? Because there's an end capability of every agency, right? At a certain point, you are out of resources. So chief's boss says, what's your threshold for defendability? And that's where this, and the 2 ambulances and a fire truck came from. So if we're out on a fire or at a car wreck and somebody having chest pain, and that 4th incident comes in, our bosses told us that we can kind of defend that we're just out of resources. We can't handle everything all the time. What drove that discussion was the incident that you probably remember on West Pleasant Street, Manlius, about a year and a half ago, where we burnt several townhouses. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you can see it from the squat pond area. So that initial alarm went out. It was a really ideal moment. It's not an exceptionally busy time. It was early morning hours. Resources weren't scattered everywhere. And for the first 26 minutes of that incident, we had 11 firefighters. Exclusively from DeWitt, Fayetteville, and Manlius. That's a long time. But it doesn't sound like much, like, oh, 11, that's it. We had several buildings on fire with 11 people working.
Well, they were all connected. I'm sure the wind was a factor.
Sure.
They were old.
But the eye-opening moment was, especially for us internally, of those 11, we provided 4 of them. About 32 minutes before that, we had an ambulance call.
Interesting.
The ambulance call didn't result in the transport. They went, they assisted the person, and it was just somebody they needed to help get up, made sure they were okay. If they had transported to the hospital, that would have taken us down to 2 people. People were the first 4 people there. And they have to accomplish everything from life safety and ensuring that this building is evacuated and people are safe and start fire suppression. We would have been down to 2. So that was kind of one of those, oh, we got lucky.
Yeah.
Let's not exclusively rely on luck. The other identifying point to us was recognizing that we all face challenges. The gobs and gobs of help that we traditionally think of in the fire service coming from other agencies just doesn't exist. And I'm not saying we need to stand exclusively on our own, but we at least need to ensure that we're providing some level of initial response.
So then are those EMS and fire people cross-trained? They can do both?
Our career staff are
Awesome.
both correct.
That's great. It seems real smart.
It certainly can be the most economical.
Mhm.
I can tell you that some of the things that are, that I think would be scary to the public, that the public probably doesn't even recognize is the places we're going on calls that really, for us, from our side, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because we recently went to a choking victim at OCC. Now, for us to get to OCC, down through the valley, get up to OCC, there's 2 outcomes of that. Either the choking is gonna correct itself, or the patient's gonna succumb. And so that's hard for our people to even bear that. Why are they sending us to this? Because we could get there and the person could be dead. Or the person could be okay, but they've just taken us out of our territory for another possible that we could have helped somebody. And it's tough for them to go to a call that they can't do anything because the outcome was not good. And that just weighs on them, so for us to go to some of these places, I mean, right now, I feel bad that we're going to the city so much because it could be a shooting or something, and they're putting us down in a territory that our people aren't familiar with. So
It's all 911, but
they're dispatching, they dispatch the closest ambulance. And we could be the closest ambulance when all these ambulances are out in other communities.
Obviously you are if you,
On there 80
A
times.
lot of them are we're sitting at the hospital waiting, and they dispatch us because we're the closest one, because we're at the hospital.
And just to clarify, 911 doing exactly what they're directed.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about like 911's fault.
no, but
So can I summarize? So your budget is under pressure because of all these EMS calls we've listed here, correct? Which correspondingly puts pressure on our budget, and yet it seems the majority of this is shared services. Almost to the point where you guys are being guilted, we're usually guilted, but you sort of are being guilted into providing that service because you're the only ones that can provide it.
Yeah.
What is that? I mean, right? This is the majority of where the pressure is for your budget, right?
And I think the thing that would be interesting is, maybe not for you, but to see how many, let's take these same calls here. How many Fayetteville and Manoa are covering also in those same territories?
Yeah.
It would be interesting.
But
A consultant looks at that. Does anybody look at
it back for just a minute, that even if we were to, as I said earlier, even if we were to delete all this.
Right.
That doesn't address,
Oh, I.
Ensuring that we provide-
And.
well, again, it's ensuring that we can provide the service that we're obligated to provide to our primary areas. So to think that, well, if we fix this mutual aid stuff, everything else is rosy is an inaccurate.
No, I wasn't suggesting that, but it's certainly putting pressure. It's adding to the
Sure.
pressure, isn't it, right?
It is one of the factors.
Can I ask, just to circle back to the budget? Because I get all the service, I really get the services and I worked for years in, you know, responding to MVAs, whatever. So I get the needs, wants, take care of the public. You're not gonna not respond when you call. But what is it that what is increasing in your budget because of circumstances, the situation that you have right now? What are the factors? I take it personnel, health, yeah, well.
Health benefits and what, I got double, triple, what is it?
That it's mostly the benefits.
States.
Yeah.
So.
So you're talking like retirement as well, or just health?
They had about a 12% increase in their employee benefits.
Well,
And-
far cry from double.
And if you,
Well, this is just 1 year.
so do you have 7 people right now for 24/7 coverage? Like what you're saying you want?
Not, so we're accommodating together kind of a 4 prongs. Attempt at how to get to that number, which
Yeah.
includes career staff, includes a targeted volunteer recruitment effort specific to some EMS driver functions. It includes a better distribution of our staffing, it includes some off-duty tones. So we're, what, a couple months into this, we are better than we've been, without a doubt, but to be honest, we are not to that 7
How
number.
much, how close are you? Or if I can
I'm
ask?
trying to qualify.
I know, I don't know how to ask that.
73%.
I don't know.
It's a hard.
So do you have 2 ambulances you have the 2 ambulances? Or you just don't have the staffing to do 7 people 24/7?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. In responsibility to the taxpayer, I mean, again, we go out and hire piles of people and say, here's your 7 people 24/7. That's not economical. I also don't know that it provides as good of a service. I think the combination front that includes volunteer staffing actually not only is more economical, but provides a better service.
Better response.
We could go on and on about all the reasons behind that, but some of that takes a minute to actually implement and get in place, especially in the challenges of
So
recruitment.
the 7 people can include volunteers.
Absolutely.
It's not just staff.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Except daytime, we don't have a lot.
volunteers.
They're more into the nighttime weekend. So.
Do you have any? Just
Yeah, I missed a little bit of the beginning. Where are the calls listed that cover the Pompey specific area? Is it broken out that way?
Yeah, on the one, do you have this sheet?
Yeah.
Oh, this one here with my name on the top, yeah, yeah, see, for the year 2021 and the year date.
Yeah.
22, it breaks it down into the area.
Fire protection.
So that it's not the pump, that's just mainly in
It's a mainly
EMS.
portion of
Okay.
Pompey that you cover.
Well, no, because then it says.
That's what I'm trying to
EMS run in
understand.
Pompey.
Right? Because I
Do those
can't-
include
I
outside?
thought that it's their district that we pay for, Manlius Fire Protection District 51 and 160.
Correct.
Right,
And
Right?
that's
Am I
in
reading that
Pompey?
right?
yeah, so the other.
That's our okay.
When you go to Pompey Hill is the other one.
Is it-
In Delphi, when you've responded to help.
Yeah.
So three different districts within your township.
Correct.
Outside the, so but they've responded to those too. You did a lot with Pompey Hill.
We do a lot with Pompeo.
Wow.
And we're even going beyond certain areas because, as I said earlier, Lafayette's not getting out and they used to cover like the south end of 20 and stuff. They're not getting out. Tully's, mostly Tully's not getting out. I think Tully only has 1 ambulance. I think.
Only has 2 ambulances and staff during the daytime to fill both. of them.
Right.
One at
So,
night.
so, yeah, at night, we're probably, I mean, we've gone to Tully 11 times, which that's kind of odd for us. I mean,
That's a hike.
we've gone to 81 for an accident in Tully. So.
Do you have any data on the other ambulance services that come into Manlius? into your area and how many calls those are?
I do, they're significantly smaller.
Yeah.
Fayetteville, Monroe are our primary. It's
Are they like your first backup or?
all closest.
Yeah.
Whoever's closest, so it's not that we list them, but they tend to be the closest ones available.
I have to tell you, it's very eye opening to look at how many times you guys go to Syracuse, Sullivan. Oh, I mean, it's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that Pompey is paying for you to go to Syracuse. It just doesn't even register. The average homeowner, I don't think has a clue.
No, I understand.
And I don't know how you get the message out or how we get the message out to say, hey, we're doing the best we can to cover our residents, but yet you're going all over. Because that's what you
Yeah,
do.
you're really in a bind because you can't not respond on mutual aid. And yet if you do, it's an expense. It adds to your budget.
There's certainly a dilemma
Yeah,
and
it's a moral dilemma. It
absolutely,
is.
you know, we've certainly discussed at length that to close the borders, if you will.
Yeah.
The scenario like to play out is obviously we border Madison County. That adds a complication to it because we don't hear their dispatch.
Right.
There could be somebody that was struck by a vehicle on Route 92 in front of the golf course in Casanova. We'd have no idea. If our border were closed, we could have 2 ambulances and a pile of paramedics. And that person's waiting for somebody to come out of Hamilton or something.
Mhm.
None of us got into this
You can't. you
for that
can't-
purpose.
No, I agree.
You're there to save lives.
You have to go help that person.
But we understand that some of these, well, City of Syracuse has to do something. They don't have a contract with AMR and they got to get their act together, but I'm sure that if it continues like this for Town of Sullivan, we can put pressure on, because like I said, it's not just us, it's Fayetteville and Manoa going there too, so.
You feel like going to those town halls and ask them for, subsidy or paybacks of some sort. I mean, it's
Yeah,
And they-
it's a tough
they-
spot.
Can they contract for just the ambulance?
They do now, so they're in a contractual agreement with AMR,
AMR.
Oh,
who's providing 1 ambulance for the entire top of Sullivan.
Which means they could be in Bridgeport and get a call in Chittenango.
but is AMR stable?
No,
I didn't think so.
no, they're struggling to get help too. I mean, they're probably stable with what they got, but they're struggling to get personnel. Otherwise, with the amount of calls that we're going to, plus like, say like Fayetteville and Manoa are going to, I'm sure they could put 2 rigs in. But I don't think they have the personnel to put 2 rigs in. Their rigs are stationed in North Chittenango, so.
I can't imagine the stress because I'm feeling stressed just sitting here listening to you, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but see. Well, he can be stressed. But our personnel do their job. They leave the stress to us. You know, they go out and do their job. They don't care about the politics. They don't care about anything.
Yeah.
They leave it to us.
That's what they
We're the
should.
ones that are stressed, but we also don't want them. COVID time made it pretty overwhelming for all of them. Because a lot of them were getting COVID and out. And so that left us with short staffing and stuff, where we kept providing the service. Because so some of our volunteers had to walked away, not that they wanted to, but they couldn't afford. Their volunteers, they had regular jobs. They weren't, and so they couldn't afford to get sick and be out of their regular work or to take it home to their family. So they walked away. It's hard for them to come back now because things haven't gotten a whole heck of a lot better. So, so we hope to bring them back,
We'd like to think we're out of the woods, but I don't think any of us
but
take that to.
But the chiefs in the 3 villages are working hard to get different phone activations, get different people signed up at different times, and maybe bring back some of the people, get a better recruitment. Where right now they're recruiting, our next recruitment drive is going to be a big push. We'll take anybody, but I shouldn't say that we'll take anybody. We'll take people for any position, but we're mainly focusing on ambulance drivers. So, because that's huge. If we can, instead of having 3 paramedics in an ambulance, for two paramedics on an ambulance, one driving, one in the back. Be nicer if we could take one of those paramedics off and put them somewhere else and put a driver in the ambulance. So,
It's crazy when you look at the numbers and as you were going through that analysis, I never would have thought that there'd be such a multiplier on EMS calls versus fire. I mean,
Yeah.
you have smoke detectors, people don't want their house to burn down. But that's 5 times more.
And that's not unique to here. That's pretty standard in the industry.
Yeah.
There's significantly more requests for EMS than fire industry wide.
So you have 2 ambulances right next to Nice and Easy, right there.
Correct.
well, if they're right next to Nice and Easy, they're probably there for lunch.
Right, for lunch, and a coffee or something.
Paul, do me a favor and email me when your next budget round comes up, because I think some of us might be interested in,
Even if we don't, I mean, we contract, but it's very odd to be in a position where we're contracting for a necessary service, but we don't really have any.
Well,
say.
yeah, well,
So it would be nice to just be able to come.
so next year.
Yeah, it's not till then. I get it, but
Yeah, it's always, we always
I guess.
start somewheres around February. So I will call you,
okay,
okay, and let you
that's
know.
good.
Yep,
And I appreciate.
because I'd rather have you, to tell you the truth, I'd rather have you there. It's just that your predecessor never wanted to be there.
Yeah, and it's nice because it saves you guys from coming out and trying to explain it to us after the fact. And we're like, why is it 22%? And you're like, well, of course it's 22%. This is why.
And it's not right now because it's been, and this is a good number now. This,
It's only 14 now.
no, it's only 14%.
Hallelujah.
The other offer is certainly come visit, got the mayor on a loop, come visit me, come visit us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you there in the day?
I'm there all sorts of times. So I can even leave you a business card. You can text me.
Okay.
We find a time, come, and I don't have to be there. We're always excited to have tours and explain what goes on. Because there are lots of things to it. It is a busy place. I appreciate the tip of the hat on the community educational components. That's
Really, really
a lot of
good.
People don't recognize.
Mm.
There's a lot that comes out of that building.
Yeah.
And it's far more than just putting out fires.
Oh, God, yeah.
Our boot camps are a huge thing
Boot camps.
for the kids, 4th grade, 8th grade.
Okay.
We feel that every year, probably within the first couple of days, that the registration opens, we fill it. And we've been doing it since 2012. And we've got a lot of those kids now have joined our fire department.
Oh, that's great.
And those kids love it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a full week with a graduation ceremony.
Does it matter where they come from?
Well,
Do they have to be Manlius kids?
There's preference given to local.
yeah.
So
but
could they be
if they're-
Manly, the Pompey part of the Manlius Fire District?
Yes, yes, yes.
That'd be
That's-
awesome.
that's
That'd be
what we
great.
should do.
I'd love to
And
share that news with everybody. But in all sincerity, especially with all of the people dying of opioid addiction, heroin, all that. I mean, you guys opened a lot of people's eyes from a parental perspective. Just by going to the event you have once a year. We had 3 kids go through FM. They're all traumatized after the crash and
that was.
everybody's gonna be dead and who's dead and, oh my God, it does resonate. It's scary.
They,
We still have a budget workshop to do.
Oh, okay.
So if you, we can continue to
So,
talk.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
So.
And this is our fifth counselor, James Loomis.
Starting from Saturday, the 15th is our open house for recruitment. If you want to come down, I'll be giving tours of the firehouse. And the other firefighters will be there showing everything. They let the kids do stuff.
all day.
It's,
10 to 2.
yeah, 10 to 2.
What day is that?
Next Saturday, a week from this.
Yeah.
It's 15.
Big time. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate what you guys do. Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
I believe these good mornings. So like I said, let me-
Thank you so much. You were great. Appreciate that.
No, good seeing you. Nice to see you.
I just want to thank you for all your. It's happening.
Okay. Now you can, if you want more space. Oh, there we go. But I just didn't want, I thought you might want.
Yep, that's fine.
We got new numbers. There was another copy of my, no.
I have two, they look exactly the
There
same.
was one that's not colored. We have a new number, which is significantly better. Instead of 20, almost 22%, it's down to 14%, but it's good. How you doing, James?
Oh, we,
You're here.
it's not here, I'm tired.
I bet you are.
Yeah, even
So,
those Reese cups are
It's
way.
actually on par with Delphi and KVAC combined.
well, I don't think anybody here has ever really
That was-
understood what.
That was really interesting.
Yeah, it was too.
Really interesting.
So with time well spent,
It is,
even
you know
though,
what I think?
It's a budget on it too.
It realistically, there's probably a pretty easy calculation you could do every time it rains. All right, we're gonna go here and this is the victim. And this is what we're gonna get, is it worth going? Financially, I mean, I know you can't run that analysis, but
you do that.
I mean, I'm sure you could figure it out. How much
Figure out
it's
how
gonna
much-
cost, how much it's gonna cost. It is.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
We're showing up.
I know.
Absolutely, no question. That's
But
where I
and
was
that's
going. If
where-
people were,
I was gonna be a fundraiser, I'd come up and say, "How do we have it in your backyard, you, how about your people, you know what I mean, it's like.
Yeah, that's, I think one of the things to come out of this discussion, James, for your information. Is that, they sent us some of the numbers,
that was interesting. Very good.
of their
Not
their
much
call
you can do.
responses. It's a very
We have the
obvious.
same discussion in Tully, so
Yeah.
you guys aren't alone. Tully has the same discussion about responding to Manlius, Lafayette.
Yeah, there's
Sligo.
usually.
Well, James
And
is looking
I
at
think they
that.
do way more than.
Have you updated your spreadsheet with it?
Yeah.
than
So that's a new number there.
That are outside their.
So we're at about a 14% increase instead of the 22.
And they're supposed to get it back, but I don't think they necessarily have the same reciprocity. They go more than they get. People
And that
coming
flows
into the town.
through out
But
your
this
entire
is obviously
spreadsheet.
being
correct?
picked up by the people that pay into this budget, which is the town of Manly.
Only 68,000 over the tax, yeah.
Part of county that is in that fire district. But
That helps.
the question, the thing is what do you do about it? It's a difficult, a lot of the ambulance corps have gone out.
Have you also
Rely on
factored
mutual aid.
reduction in anticipated expenses for the council?
No, I have not, because we haven't discussed that yet. That's true.
So it's tough. But this is, it's a definite, this number is definitely better.
With the number, with that, Tom, with that number, the improved
It
number.
was 744.
How far off are we?
74.
Oh, yeah.
It's 68,000 over the tax gap. I mean, but if you look here, take a look at some of this interesting stuff. I mean, this is the stuff you guys control. You're raising 3 cents per thousand or 1.1%. You're going from 1,686 to 1,705. I mean, 3 cents per thousand is $3 on $100,000 house
Right,
on what you're controlling.
right.
I mean, that's not a lot to ask when you look at your school tax bills, I bet.
No, and I'll tell you, I really feel like we have, in the last almost 3 years now, this is the third budget round we've done. We have really like gotten the budget lines where they should be, with some of the expenses, some that from the past that were maybe underfunded or overfunded or whatever, but so they seem to be in line now. So when I look through here, there's a little tweak here, a little tweak there, but there's no big tweak other than I think we take that 30,000 out of it, for the software and cover it with ARPA.
Well, it's a third. the
This year.
inflation Too, right?
And it's not gonna be
Yeah,
as.
third is right.
and-
Yeah, so you still need to leave in the annual maintenance charge.
No, I know, I
This
understand.
price should be about 4,000.
Yeah, but we could take out, let's just say we're not gonna need the pay, well, let's take out the whole thing and whatever we do need, I don't think we're gonna need the payroll service.
I think
don't
we
know
need
that yet.
5,000, so maybe leave 5,000 there. That would cover the service charge for both of those.
And we're gonna probably have to purchase that this year anyway, because we started, we can't wait.
We should know more tomorrow or next week.
The software for the accounting.
Oh, no question.
We're
No
doing a
question.
demo on Thursday, Bill and Tom and I and Jim. Pump.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna buy it in this fiscal year, so we
Yes.
don't need to
Using the
budget.
ARPA
Yes.
funds or maybe some of our surplus.
So we can, you're saying we can reduce that number, Tom, from 30 to 5?
5, yeah, that's what I just.
So that gets us down even farther.
How close are we now? This is the game that
So
gets
you're actually, what you're controlling is actually a negative.
Down a penny now.
You're down a penny per thousand on what you're controlling, but you're still 43,000 over the tax cap.
43,000 total on a, what does that mean, Tom? That's 43,000 in spending over what we would see.
What you
On a
would be
2%
allowed under
increase.
the state tax cap,
Okay, got it.
So, but simply.
but it's not in the
Over
town. It's not the stuff you guys are
we have
controlling.
no control over the fire district and the ambulance.
Oh, I see.
Services, so those numbers are really, look at the numbers there, the percentage increases, and that's where it's killing us.
Yeah, I mean, right now you've reduced 6,000, you're raising $6,000 less taxes than you did in the previous year.
I
We're
mean,
raising less in taxes than we did the previous year.
Okay.
except for the fire.
No,
Oh,
what you control, what you
What we control,
control,
right,
this is what you raised in 2022, 1686,
yeah,
1680. Is what you're, with the changes you've made here. I don't know if you should be trying to cover
Things.
the excesses that you have no control over
Well,
and sacrificing your own budget and maybe leaving yourself short.
no, and I love that we're starting to put money in a reserve. I just feel like that is, I don't want to touch that. I think that's a good thing, and we've got a lot of things covered that.
And when you say putting money in a reserve, you're talking about for the asset replacement strategy that we're talking about with highway?
Yes,
Yes.
we actually this year moved some money into the reserve, a reserve so that we can build it up to anticipate when some piece of equipment's useful life is at an end, we have some money to cover the replacement.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely smart planning.
Now, what do we, how much, what do we have in that for that ARPA and how long do we have? Just how long do we have, is there a time limit on when we have to have it spent?
We have to be committed to how we're going to use it by the end of 2024. And we have to have spent it by the end of 2026.
Okay,
So we have, we got about, what was the total? 730, I forget what it is. We got it in two chunks. So last August, we got August of 2021, we got the first half, and then this past August, we got the second half, but the total was, and we have used some of it for very specific one-shot
Yeah.
deals kind of things.
that's, I knew we did that, so I wanted to know.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
down
wanted-
in the 600s. I just don't remember where we are.
So we had 746 as of 8/31. I know we do. We paid for the loader, so that's 20,000 out of that. And then the general fund paid for the
I think it was part of it.
the fuel system, so that's another 20,000. So we're probably a little bit below 700,000 remaining in there. I don't have my post 8/31 reports with me, so
So
It'd be just a little under that.
should be just a little under 600,000 right now. It's
600 or 700? Seven.
Just a little bit under 700. But we're committing next year. Let's see, much. We committed in the highway fund. We're committing 43,000, but we had said we were gonna commit that this year.
This year, we were gonna, it was for the pickup truck.
But we couldn't order it.
It wasn't available.
And next year, we're currently not committing anything to offset anything in the budget. So, but that. This year, we haven't funded the Rod roof, which we had committed some of the ARPA funds to, so I can't show that, can't take that out of there yet.
So how much we're
But
gonna
that
do?
slides over to next year.
So that was about 35,000 that we committed for ARPA for that, or no, yeah, 35,000, I think.
And the total was 188, right? Or was that total without ARPA?
So we've got another
With ARPA,
70 to 80,000 coming out already, so that puts us down to about 620
yeah,
roughly.
you're 600 plus.
So
Think of my Donnie Kretzer stuff.
It's great. Yeah, we'll make it in the park.
we should make it.
I-
Just so you know, I talked to Dan Bender about, do we need any money in the IT equipment budgets? Because I was thinking maybe that was a place, but he said, I guess there's a couple of computers around here that are aging out, so we should probably leave that 2,000 in. Because he thinks we might, I don't know which ones they are.
Do we lease them? Are we on an annual lease program?
No.
Why not?
Well, why?
Is it a better deal?
Yeah,
I was gonna say
That's
that,
a small number there.
we lease them at work, and I don't know if the idea is, you get a new asset, you depreciate it. I don't know how you do it in government, but
You don't depreciating
Yeah.
in government.
if we lease, I don't know, maybe it's not the same. Not with the leasing, but the benefits. That way
We can talk to
you guys
Jason.
know,
Don't get.
you can own,
depreciation.
yeah, right. But it's not a hard asset either, of course. I'm just trying to think, I
that's
don't know,
worth looking
it's
into.
worth looking into because I think you pay a smaller portion, then you give the asset back. And
The only
It might
thing
be
we
worth
really
it.
lease right now are the copier and the postage meter.
How much are we trying to put reserves again?
80,000 in the highway equipment reserve.
Yeah.
in essence, we're leasing the printer, the copier.
Yes,
We lease that.
that and the postage meter are our only leases in this
Because
building.
we own the folding machine. Do we still?
We own the folding machine, we pay a service maintenance contract on
If you go to buildings, A1620,
it. That's where I'm at.
okay. I have just here windows with nothing there, and then we also talked about the doors out here.
Right, and I thought at our last meeting, we discussed that you were
We're
applying
trying
for
to
those
take
for
that
a
money.
grant.
Yeah,
And if not, then you would probably hit your ARPA funds.
okay. So we're not gonna put any money there.
Not if you, I mean.
I
if
just
you're
want to
gonna-
make sure. I went through.
You could, if you're planning on doing it no matter what, then maybe you would.
I sort of don't want to fiddle with this. But that's not just my call.
What are we talking about?
Well, the front doors here,
Yeah.
both the outside, very outside, and then the next set in,
Right.
are completely useless as far as
The building
they're not
is-
secure.
Their building's 29 years old.
They're,
They've never been replaced.
the
So
doors
there's
are,
gaps in-
there's so
Yeah.
many gaps that in the wintertime, it's a waste of energy that,
Just whistles.
yeah, so,
Right.
so with the Justice Cap grant that we're applying for, we thought we would ask for money for the doors, to replace the doors. I'm still waiting on a quote. But whether or not, if we don't get that money, that still needs to be done, especially after we just put in energy efficient heat pumps. I hate to,
Those heat pumps are gonna blow I'm just telling you now that heat pumps in the winter will blow your mind. If they're not geothermal, you'll spend 3 times as much as you will in natural gas this winter. So you'll definitely, my point in sharing that with you is you'll probably want to budget a little more for utilities. And you absolutely will want to replace those front doors. And I would take it a step farther just for discussion purposes. If there's security funds that are available for us to use, I would definitely recommend getting some kind of secure vestibule. And I don't know from a town perspective, but every
what do you
school.
mean by security?
Well, you can come in from the outside and be in a holding area and then you get buzzed in once you know who the person is. Because right now, I mean, if you think about it, there are probably times when people are more, might be here by themselves. I don't know.
No, they're definitely.
And it could be a dangerous situation. And I think for our employee safety, our town people safety, I think we want to consider
well,
doing something like that.
We thought, I mean, regardless of what we do, we're getting rid of that lock system because it's really inefficient. I mean, it's hard to figure out, and half the time you end up leaving the door ajar because you can't figure out how to relock it, but.
It's 30 years old. It just,
Yeah.
just doesn't
So
work the way it's supposed to.
we should go to another system where it's either a key fob or
A swipe card for the people that work here. You know, and the people that use the building, but, so, yeah, that's definitely. I mean, that's not, I don't disagree with you. that
Metal detector.
metal detector is never used. Never.
Why we got the sheriff's here?
They don't use it. And it sits there. It's been there since I was on the town board as a counselor in 2010 or 2009. And it is never, nobody has ever wanted that I see. I watch them put their keys or whatever when they sign in at the little desk and that's it.
Years ago, I remember coming in to check my mailbox for something and I did have to go through it, but that was a long
I
long
don't
time
think
ago.
it's used anymore. So I don't know.
A few years ago.
What's our magic number? We're over the tax cap again, was it?
About 46,000.
That's what we're over?
43,000, but we still don't have the KVAC ambulance contract either.
So that'll-
What's that? We got another ambulance contract?
No, that's the only one we do have with Delphi Falls.
Right, the manliest fire is manliest fire and ambulance.
Right.
Delphi Falls contracts with KVAC, we contract with KVAC for that.
So
But these guys look like they went to Delphi Falls a number of times outside of,
yeah, they probably did. That doesn't mean that.
Yeah, I don't know
You
if
put in
that's.
You put into the sewer.
I put in an estimate based on how much they've been increasing the last couple of years.
This is a decrease. Am I looking at it wrong? Oh, yeah, I am. Never mind.
16.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we probably won't have that number till later in October. So if your goal is to get under the tax cap,
right, right.
Need almost.
I agree.
we don't have any.
Probably.
They give us the budget and that.
Yeah.
You know. I'm just, you know, I mean, I'm trying to, the real question is how quick do you burn through the ARPA money, right?
We're not looking to burn through it.
No, well, that's the, that's.
It's meant to be.
We're not looking to burn through it, but how,
It appears to be a question that a lot of people are very interested in, especially as a result of the meeting on Monday night. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, there seems to be people that are questioning, what is it? How do we use it? What is it all about? Or,
I mean,
Well-
we have,
so your question about burning through it,
it's not.
I don't know. I think there may be a misunderstanding about what it is and how we can use it. And I don't know, I don't know if people understand. I know,
It can be
I,
used for things like.
I know I don't understand it.
It's the way I've understood it.
Well, no, it can be used for almost anything at this point because the federal government expanded the scope of what it could, the purposes of its use could be. It was originally pretty narrowly defined and we were worried we weren't going to be able to use it, but now we don't have that because they expanded it. But that doesn't mean every time we need something, we should just dip into the ARPA
Right.
funds. So in talking to
That's fine.
Tom's successor. And I've talked to Bill about this. And I've talked about this ad nauseam, just in general, we need to come up with capital improvement plan. We need to have this town on a schedule, know what our inventory is, know what it costs, know when the useful life is up, determine what that is, and then plan for that. And some of the ARPA money, it can't be used for like
Can't fund a
you
reserve.
can't, no, so, but that piece is separate, so we need to figure that out. Then we need to figure out, so ARPA money, what should we be using it for? What should we be using it for? More town infrastructure, the one-offs, the equipment? Should we be, can we, and I know there's much talk about different possibilities. Can we use it for some community benefit?
Mhm.
What can we do to bring some community spirit benefit to the town? So there's been talk about it, park someplace, but yeah. I mean, I think there's ways to use it, but in large part, it was absolutely literally dumped on us. Blue.
Right.
And you gotta be responsible. We have to be
Right.
responsible
Yeah,
about how
for sure.
we use it. So I don't want, I didn't mean to say, I don't want to
Yeah,
burn
I'm
through
not
it.
asking,
Yeah.
but
I want
that's
to-
why I asked.
Yeah,
how long
so
do
I
we have
want to,
Here's to determine how it's.
how we're gonna, we have
Years
years
Yes.
left.
spent.
Right.
So, but in 2 years, we have
Yeah.
to determine what we're doing.
Yeah,
So that
correct.
would include if there was projects like that,
Yeah.
or if it's gonna go towards equipment.
Yeah.
And that's
And
what I
then-
was getting at.
And another possibility, we're looking if we get JCAP money to get an architect's rendering of how we could redefine the space in the town hall. The town hall has a lot of inefficient space, very inefficient. And it could be redesigned. So I just met with an architect today. So, and with the justice courts, or the judges, to consider how to perhaps remodel this room, perhaps expand it. We have no private space. When we want to have executive session, where do we go?
We have to go into an office that
Yeah.
doesn't even have enough chairs.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and the same with the courts, when they need to have privacy, there is no place. So we're looking at ways to maybe redefine how this room gets used, how it looks. We're also talked about space outside of this room that already exists in the town. I was very encouraged that there's ways that we could improve the efficiency of the space here and be better served service. So that's another way we could use it. But I'm all ears for for possibilities, if people have ideas. But it really does need to benefit the town some way. I mean, it can't just be like specific to a certain project or, pet project or whatever. It really should benefit the town.
And it shouldn't really be just saying, oh, well, we'll just use 45,000 of it to get us under the tax cap
Right.
this year. Because then you're gonna need 90,000 following year to get you under the tax
Yeah.
cap.
Right.
So we did a little bit of that last year because I think we were close last year with the few things that are on there, but
Oh, I forget, we also, so we probably, after this, we are gonna be about 600 because we also had we committed a little bit of it to the Pompey, the preserve drainage system there.
yes, you're
I
right.
think it was like 24,000 or something, 25.
Yeah. So, I guess we need to decide if we think this is a good enough budget to move to preliminary or if we're.
Is it likely that these fire things, is that likely to be looking at increases like that again? Or what's the?
I would, when you have some time in the 6 hours of the day you're not working on the farm, you should listen to the first part of that because they're not. The fire and ambulance the crews are really stretched. And it sounds like they're doing way more than they used to, and it's and I don't know. I mean,
I agree. I
There's an
feel a lot
ethical-
better after. you
yeah.
listen to it.
There's an
Really
ethical
what-
problem, there's a moral not ethical, there's a moral problem, there's a structural problem, there's a capacity problem with the hospitals, it's deep, and I didn't realize it, I just wanted to yell, why is it 22%? Why did you not invite us? Yeah,
10%, it's hard.
But then-
So.
but then when you hear about it, I have a question, and one of the things that I want to talk about is asking or finding out, talking about it openly. What's involved with asking VR to get his license, this other license that needs to be?
CDL?
Yeah. Does anybody know what's involved with the CDL?
Yeah, there's online training and it also has to be time in the seat of the big vehicles. Driving them around, and then he has to go and take a physical test for driving skills, parking, and also he has to know the rules of the road, and there's also a physical test, I believe.
Does that allow him then to, if somebody gets sick, drive a plow truck or something?
Yes,
Is that also, I don't know, 18-wheeler, or is that a different
I think
program?
there's different for 18-wheelers, there's different weight limits that you can drive with different licenses.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a thought and I want to share it with you guys. We talked about how we were going to handle raises, and
I think if this is personnel, we shouldn't talk about it out here.
okay,
We should talk about it in executive session.
okay.
Well, if it's specific to a person, if it's gonna be an across the board type
Yeah.
thing, then you can talk.
I don't know
about
where
it.
you're going, so I just wanted to make sure.
All right, then we should talk about it in executive session, I guess.
All right.
But thanks for clarifying the CDL thing. So I think it's important. Is there,
But Tisco hired somebody about 2 months ago that had only had their CDL permit, and now that person is qualified as a CDL driver.
That's great.
So
Is there any
it doesn't take
additional-
forever.
Tom, is there any additional resources from the town's perspective? To help someone get the permit and then get the license? Is there a chunk of money we got to throw at it? Is it just, hey, you just need to go take, drive down to the DMV, apply for this special permit and then practice like when our kids went, or we all got our license, get a permit, practice, do the study and do the exam,
Well, we
get a
pay-
license.
Pay for licensing, right?
In the
Sounds good.
teacher's contract, we do pay for the license renewals. So it's about $200 to $300 every 5 or 6 years.
But the upfront training,
I don't think the upfront training costs it
that's what I want.
unless you send them to a tractor trailer driver school or something.
Isn't it just so they can drive a 10-wheeler? And
Yes, yeah.
yeah, all right,
There's different levels. I think a plow truck is a CDLB, I believe.
okay,
It's like your regular license, you go down, you pass the written test, you get
Yeah.
a permit.
gotcha,
But
okay,
then you have to so long, yeah, and there's a
Alright.
time limit, you have so much time to. If you gotta have a truck, you gotta know everything about it, you gotta go take a physical test.
gotcha,
just like you
gotcha,
would
okay.
A driving test with the truck.
I think there's a drug test too now.
Yes, there is. Then once you pay, and I think there's health,
Do you have a CDL?
no.
Oh.
But
But you can drive it
Yeah.
because you own the property, correct?
For 128 years.
All right, correct.
But not to,
Not on the road.
not just, only.
You can't go for somebody else. and
Yeah,
do it.
I couldn't go
Gotcha.
haul stuff, with
Gotcha.
disease, but I can haul my.
So overall, we're within how much, Tom, of controllable?
Under.
We're under.
We're under.
We've reduced taxes by about $6,000 over what we collected for 2022 on
Okay.
controllables.
And then the all-in on everything else, you said are about 43,000?
43,000 over.
Gotcha.
So the question is, are you comfortable with knowing that of the things that we can control, we've done the best we can, and of the things that we can't control, we're over?
Yeah,
I
I
guess
mean,
that's the
it's
question.
pretty simple. I mean, if you look at the comparisons there. On Manlius, Delphi and Delphi ambulance, you'll see that that's more than 43. So you've cut stuff.
And as I said, I went through this again, the budget, at least the general fund. And I couldn't, I really couldn't find anything other than, a little bit here, a little bit there, wasn't worth, $100, 500, whatever, it just wasn't worth it. And I think that with the highway budget, the big unknown will come with the union contract when we get that done. We haven't got that. That's a number we don't know yet.
Is that something that we have to budget for this year, if it takes place next year?
Well, it'll affect next year.
We have an estimate of what, but it could be different depending on how the negotiation.
Okay, so if you look at this number here, the 110,000.
Yeah,
That's how much Manlius Fire, Delphi Fire, and Delphi Falls Ambulance are currently going up in total taxes. And so you actually cut in other places that you control enough to bring you down to a negative 1 cent tax rate. Well, do you want, so if you move it to preliminary, here's the rules.
I think we want to go into executive session before we.
yeah, I would like just 5 minutes.
And Bill's got to leave.
You want me to just mute this?
We could just mute it unless people can read lips.
I don't think anybody can read my lips.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't we just mute it? Well, we should make a motion. Do you want to make a motion to go? into-
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion. We go into executive.
I haven't
session.
been keeping notes tonight either. Should I have been?
I'll second it.
Well, it's to discuss an employment, employment history, promotion, demotion, succession, whatever, the whole long litany that relates to employment.
But first,
Person or corporation.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
All in favor?
Everything Yeah,
What's up?
I agree.
That's it. Nobody wants.
No. And I don't care.
I can bring
if we are,
Veronica is the only one on it.
you know, if we are, you know, yeah, we are the best town, but it still hurts.
There we go.
So I will make a motion to come back into regular session.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried.
All right.
So let's let Tom get seated.
Okay, what would we like to address with budget?
Yeah, on the, let's see. TB 16, I would like to change the highway superintendent salary to $72,100.
I'll second that.
We don't need to second it.
Oh, we don't. Okay, good.
We're just making, we're making the same things we've been doing all night. I just gotta go change it on the actual budget. That's just a worksheet,
I just want to look through this once more time before we.
please. I didn't change much, we're about 45,000 over the tax cap, but still 1 cent per thousand decrease
And
for the general and highway.
for the town budget.
You wanna just take a quick run down through the pages and make sure we have everything that we talked about in here that we changed? Why don't we go to TB2?
The only question I had is the one, and it's not a big number, so like, if everybody says Renee, just move on, go for it. But the justice court contractual expense line, 2,700, they never spend like more than $1,200 a year. $1,300, so I almost feel like we should back that off to 1,500. But I don't want to alienate them either.
I know, that's what I would be afraid of. That's- And of course, if you did that, then they'd make a concerted effort to spend past that.
I know, so that's what I'm saying, it's not a big deal, but I don't, but in looking at the past pattern, they never spend it all.
Okay, so we discussed the other day, we eliminated the bookkeeper salary and the budget officer salaries. We are gonna purchase the software this year, either out of ARPA or out of surpluses this year. We're gonna maintain $5,000 for the software annual updates. 50,400 for the new accounting firm. And then $3 of hourly service for the stuff that may not be covered by the standard contract, because they mentioned there may be stuff.
3,000.
3,000, yeah. We didn't make any changes again. Well, we made the budget change to 0 there. The assessor, you changed that salary to 34,300 the other day when you went through the salary sheet. And the town clerk contractual line, we dropped to 4,800. That was it for that page. The next page, we increased slightly the website and stuff for that. After we got the budget for that. So we didn't do anything in the heat pumps and the windows were all done this year, so that's out of the budget. We reduced the building contractual to 34,500. And that was due to the fact that we're eliminating some of the cost of the cleaning services and a couple of other small items. But we did keep the total for the energy the same as last year.
Where's that's
That's just part of that number.
okay,
Central garage, instead of 15,000, we made that 12,500 and we kept the same salary, I believe. We rolled forward the 188,000 for the garage roof, so that's no change to what you're seeing. On the, let's see, on the central communications and IT, we bumped up from 3,000 to 4,600 because we hadn't taken into account all of those charges for the emails and all that type of stuff that we had. But she added on to her sheet this year. And we kept the 2,000 there for equipment.
That's like the fishing
the phishing and all that other stuff that.
Malware stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's also all that stuff that Veronica has to pay for, the domain names and all that crap. We hadn't been taking care of. And that was it for that page. That was all the changes we made there.
Where was remember we had numbers for painting and landscaping and things like that and that
That's
part,
up in the buildings.
that's under buildings contractual?
Mhm.
Okay, did we reduce that?
Yep.
At all? Okay,
Didn't we reduce it?
34.5.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're 40.
Okay.
So on this page, I think that was it on, no, let's see. Yep, that was it on 3. So let's go to 4. So on page 4, we made the change back to the 72,100 for the highway superintendent as requested. And other than that, down on the historical properties, the outhouse roof, we reduced from 1,000 to 500. That was it for changes on that page. Next page, we took out the code update. We're not planning on updating the code next year.
No.
And then on employee benefits, I did recalc with taking out the salary changes, taking my salary out, the assessor change and all those. So that new number is 24,000 for social security, or it was 26,300.
Mhm.
And so now we have a new number at the bottom, which I gave you a number the last time, but the new number is 1,990,755.
So Tom, one question, on hospital and medical, that's a big jump from last year.
Yeah, because we didn't have our town clerk covered.
Right. Okay. And that's really the difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the majority of it anyways.
Okay.
And I think, let's see, before that, you mean the cost of what it actually cost us in the previous year or what we budgeted,
Well,
2022?
what's budgeted as amended?
Yeah, so what, we've actually changed that budget number
Because we were
from the
low, right?
original budget. Yeah, we're way low. We only had enough to cover the retirees and the highway superintendent.
Then we added the clerk.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not as big a jump as it looks like there.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it's more in line with what we're doing this year. So 1,990,755. The next page is the revenue page. I don't think we made any adjustments here at this point. I think you guys went with what I had recommended. Yep, there's no changes there. The next page is the highway page. Let me get that one.
No more.
Sorry.
All right, so the changes here. All right, so you asked me to break out the fuel. So if you're looking at my screen is completely different for the highway because you asked me to do all those changes for you to track the things separately.
Yeah, sorry.
So we have the total of the 285,000, but we have 15,000 for fuel and 270,000 for the actual roads type improvement. The sweeper, we kept the same. Plow truck, we've changed that to 217,000, and it's only the cabin chassis being ordered. We added a pickup truck that was supposed to be ordered this year, but wasn't, and so we rolled forward we aren't going to spend the ARPA money on that this year, so we budgeted to spend the ARPA money next year. That was the only changes there. So under snow removal, I added 2 new fuel lines. I took 15,000 out of the 63, so we have 15,000 for fuel, 48,000 for sand and salt. And then on the county, we did 20,000 for fuel and 76,894 for contractual. And then at the last item we added was the 80,000 for the transfer to reserve. And so the new total there is 207,1,288. I'm not sure if we had that number before.
I didn't have it on mine.
No,
What's that number again? 20.
207,1,288. On the next page, I double checked with Renee's contract she gave me for the snow plowing. I'm within penny, so
Oh, good.
it's as expected.
The snow and ice removal contract with the county when we do their roads and they
Yeah.
pay us for it.
So the fuel reimbursements, we bumped from 2,000 to 3,000.
Where are we now? I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then we had nothing in there for, well, we had nothing in there for sale of equipment, but BR told us we we're gonna have 28,000 for the sweeper. That's what you recall, right, Renee?
Yes.
Okay. And then we also added back in 43,000 of ARPA funds to cover the cost of the pickup truck that we had the previous year. And I think that's it. Street lighting could be okay. Let's see, that page, there's no changes on 8, page 9. I don't think there's any changes that we made on 9. Page 10. Changes there. Page 11. Changes there. The next page, page 12, we're down to.
Okay, you're on 12?
On page 12, we still only have the estimate for the ambulance protection.
Oh, right.
So that one's still an unknown. And Manly is fire protection. So where it said estimate of 68045 is 721,817. And I think that was the only other change on that page. You know what? My page numbers don't match yours anymore because I changed
we
the,
found that.
All that-
I found
Yeah.
it.
I did too.
but I had changed the setup here.
Yeah.
So that's, we finally got Pompey fired. I don't think it was on your thing.
It's 7.
No.
So Pompey fire estimate of 543. 172. But they're still in preliminary, so that's not a final number, but it doesn't affect our tax cap.
Does that go down? Is that less than we had figured?
I hadn't put anything on your sheet originally.
What's the number?
543,172.
Less than this year's.
Well,
55217.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't break it out by. That's just the net. See, last year's had the revenues against it.
Yeah.
Alls I got was just a single number from them. Once we get their final budget, I'll represent it so that it's. I don't know how much, I know that the total budget is more than 543, but I know the net budget is 543, so that's why I put it in there. All right, now we're to the rates page, I believe.
Yeah. My rates page is a mess.
Rates page is probably a mess, but I'll give you the numbers that we're at right now. So we want to go to the middle of the page where it says 2023 amount to be raised. So where it used to say 289 is now 269,387. 387. The rate resulting from that is 41 cents. And that's negative 12 cents. The highway that used to say 1544 is now 1412,369. The resulting rate is $2.18. And that's an increase of 11 cents. The
So that's
old,
where you're coming up with the
Minus one.
-1.
yes,
Gotcha.
on your tax bill, you only have town taxes and that's the general and highway combined. So the next line there, the summary line, where it used to say 1833. That one is 1681,
Wait a minute, where are you? Oh,
The total.
the total of those two, 1681. 756.
Where it used
Where
to
are
be
you?
1833.
oh,
3613.
sorry, say it
No.
once more and I'll get it.
Yep, 1681756. Tax rate is 2.59. And the resulting tax is a -1 cent.
Okay.
You didn't have Pompey Fire in there, so you can put the 543,172. The manliest, oh, and the rate for that one is $1.80. Which is plus 3 cents. The manliest fire is now 721. 767. The rate is 233. An increase of 29 cents. Wow. So $100,000 house will see a $29 increase. Actually, 28 in manliest because you're going down $1 in your town taxes. You want to run down through the salary page too, just to make sure I didn't miss anything?
Sure. As well.
All by stay the same.
So I've got all the electeds all the way down through the tax collector remaining the same.
Right.
Okay, the assessor going to 34,300.
Mhm.
The highway superintendent at 72,100. Hang on, I got to write it in. I like to double duplicate everything. Garage clerk to 12,500 at $15 per hour.
Yep.
Total highway, 478,700, no change from the original. Historian, no change. Codes enforcement. All right, let me get to this one because this one's a little more. We just got rid of the salary and we're going back to hourly, right? And I show 36,600 available at $37 per hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And the deputy, I show $9,100 at $25 per hour.
Yeah.
Okay. No change. Let's see, the zoning clerk. We're increasing the salary to $16 an hour. Does that sound right?
Mhm.
Okay. I did not type that in here yet, so let me do that. But we're not changing the total dollars available because we don't usually hit that number.
And did you change the town clerk deputy to 16 an hour as well?
No, I didn't, but I should.
I've got it changed on mine, but
Yeah, but we didn't change the total dollars.
We didn't change the total dollars, but
So we did go to $16 an hour.
yeah,
That's what I had written.
Yep, I have it written in on my handwritten sheet. I just typed it into the computer, so it shows up there. Budget officer going to 0, youth director staying the same, and the youth program staff to
Right.
22,930. I did hear that the minimum wage is going up by $1 instead of 70 cents. So that may affect that budget a little bit, but I'm not guessing a ton. So,
so Teresa's the only one that's gonna be 15 an hour.
yep. That's what BR asked for.
Okay.
He wanted to have more hours and
Plus pay.
hope that works. So here are your options at this point. If you're pretty certain that you've covered most of the budget lines that you want to You've got a pretty solid budget here. You've got a few outliers, like we don't know the Delphi Falls ambulance from KVAC yet. And I don't have the final tax rate or the final tax assessed values in there, but I will put them in before I reprint it with as the preliminary. So, and if you're happy that you're not going to increase any more of the elected official salaries, then I would recommend that you move it from tentative to preliminary with the changes discussed. So that requires a motion second.
I'll make the motion that we moved it from the preliminary, from tentative to preliminary for the town budget.
I second it.
Okay, so, Dave made the motion and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, now we need to set our public hearing date.
We have a
So,
public hearing date for the local, over the tax cap,
Because this will be just
local law.
Did we already do this?
for the tax cap, but now we gotta do it to adopt.
it was-
Now they adopt, and sometimes we do it on the same night, but I don't know,
So our regular meeting in November is on the second. Is that when we did the tax cap?
yes.
November 2nd at 6:35 PM.
Yeah, it's a regular meeting, but it's on a Wednesday because it's prior to.
We can't have a meeting in this building when there's an election in this building the night before
That's the regular meeting.
Okay.
or the night of.
Yeah,
Time is it at?
It's, the regular meeting is Wednesday, November 2nd. It starts at 6:30, but the public hearing on overriding the tax cap is at 6:35. But then we also need a public hearing on the preliminary budget itself.
Why can't we have it that same night?
We could.
Again, you just have to have it after the
Yeah.
tax cap over.
Okay, then I'll make a motion. We have the public hearing on the general and highway fund.
How about on all of the budgets?
Oh, yeah.
okay.
All right.
On all of our public, I don't know, did we do it motion separately the last time?
When we adopt the budget, we
When we do, yeah, when we adopt it, but I think for setting the
public.
public hearings, you can probably, well, yeah, go ahead and just list them all out, general highway.
Special, all special district
Special districts and SOTS.
and sats at 6:40.
On November
Oh, you're,
2nd.
you're
November 2nd.
optimistic.
I like it. I like where you're going.
Last year, I swear, everybody was making all of their like objections or whatever during the tax cap. And
They
then,
will.
or not last year, the year before, and then, there was nothing much to say once we got to the budget. 'Cause they-
Well, So the thing is you're having your public hearing before election. So if you have it after election, there's a lot less of that posturing going.
That's
on.
right.
That's true, that happened.
All right. Now I'll second that motion that we have the
Public hearing.
public hearing on
General highway.
general highway,
Special district.
special SOTS at 6:40 on November 2nd.
And I'll second it. Oh, you already did.
Yeah, second it. You can third it.
I don't need to.
All
I'm
right.
bleary eyed. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I move to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We are
Good night.
adjourned.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, Dave. Thanks.
We don't have the one, the 24th.
Oh, I don't even-
Yeah, we don't need the 24th now because we've,
Okay, that-